every single Thursday, we do a final thoughts, a final prediction, and we're not predicting a game outcome necessarily in this segment. What I want to predict is things that are going to happen within the game, or at the very least give you my final thought before we head into week 5 of the college football season, because I think that's important for us to get aligned on. Anyone can predict a score. Can you predict what's going to happen within the game to get you to that final score, right? The game that we're going to be at, which I cannot wait for, man, Tennessee and South Carolina, Neyland Stadium will be electric. You got the dark mode jerseys on. I mean, it's going to be phenomenal. For me, my prediction / final thought when it comes to Tennessee, man, this is the moment of truth for Joe Milton. This is. I mean, this secondary for South Carolina, they got more question marks than the Rattler, more suspect than the Butler at a murder mystery party. Like, they've got some issues. They showed that last week against Mississippi State. This is a night game. It's a night game. It's going to be rocking. The energy will be electric for you to feed off of. You got the dark mode jerseys on like we just talked about a second ago. Like, if that doesn't get you going, I don't know what will. I think the time is now. I do, though, just to make it clear, I think we see Joe Milton from the Orange Bowl in this game. Been a lot of talk, been a lot of chatter. They've had, different conversations internally at Tennessee within that locker room to try and get their mind right. They've had their get right kind of game out of the way in my mind. I think in this game we see Joe Milton look like he did in that game against Clemson, launching missiles, throwing darts, and being the catalyst and taking advantage of that South Carolina defense as Tennessee scores a lot of points. Make sure you're subscribed. College football, only college football now. If you're new to the show, welcome. That's all we're about here. No other sport, no other agenda, no other things that are baked into this. It's just ball and only ball right here. So make sure you're dialed in. We're live Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern, as we are right now. If you're watching a cut from a one-off video, we appreciate y'all doing that. Make sure you're dialed in right here, all right? We'd love to have you subscribed and a part of this program. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter, @JDPikel, to stay with all that we're doing here. Thank you in advance for that. To the other side of things now, for South Carolina, I think the good vibes tour continues for Spencer Rattler. I do, man. Like, the easy talking point is, well, Spencer Rattler, it's been good so far, but he gets in that atmosphere in Neyland Stadium and he gets rattled. No pun intended, but I don't think that's the case, man. His lowest passing yard total on the season came against Georgia, where he threw for 256. And if you watched that game, Spencer Rattler really was a reason why they were in that game for the most part. I think this game for South Carolina depends all on balance. They were able to run the football well last week against Mississippi State. Can you do it against Tennessee? We'll see. But at the end of the day, he's completing 74% of his passes. If South Carolina doesn't win this football game, I don't think you look at Spencer Rattler and say, well, look at his stat line. It's bad. I don't think so. I think Spencer Rattler is how you have been so successful to this point offensively. If you can give him some help, things get interesting. If you can be balanced, then you have a better chance of attacking the Tennessee defense. But again, I think the good vibes tour just continues for Spencer Rattler as he continues to make good on what people said about him early on in his career, about being a Heisman Trophy guy, being a number 1 overall pick guy. I don't know if he has that kind of juice at this point in his career. I'm not predicting him to win the Heisman or be a number 1 overall draft pick, but I think we go back and say, yeah, Spencer Rattler, that's a good quarterback. That's a good quarterback doing some good things over there for South Carolina. Hey, this is a big game now too. Duke and Notre Dame. This is a massive spot for Duke. Massive spot for Duke, yes, but what I was trying to talk about was Notre Dame. It's a massive spot for Notre Dame because of their playoff hopes. What have we said with the playoff hopes for a little bit here, y'all? Notre Dame, they don't play in a conference title game. History says they might need to be undefeated to get to the college football playoff, but Notre Dame is, or has been, I guess, rather, since that game ended, the Duke-Clemson game. They've been massive Duke fans, and they've also been massive Clemson fans. Want to know why? Because Duke now would be a ranked win for Notre Dame should they get it done in Durham, North Carolina. And then, like I said, the runway is there for them. Their playoff hopes are not on life support, especially if they win this football game. Now, if you drop this football game, 2-loss team, not happening. But if you beat Duke, that's a ranked win. You have a final play loss to a top 10 team in the country against Ohio State. You still play USC. So get them in South Bend, mind you. And you play Clemson. So you're rooting hard for Clemson here. Let's go Tigers. Let's go, boys. Hey, let's get some wins here so we can play y'all, and it'll be a big-time matchup when we get to kind of boost the resume a little bit. But I think the curious thing now for Notre Dame in this game against Duke, need some style points, y'all. Need some style points. Need some statements to be made. Let's let Sam Hartman cook a little bit more. He was efficient last week. I want us to kind of rev the engine a little bit more. I know Audric Estime is that dude. I understand it. Dude, it like probably consumes 400 grams of protein the way that he looks. I'm sure that that's going to be a factor in the game, but I would love to see us score a lot of points if we're Notre Dame. So style points now, kind of ratchet that up a little bit now. So you still got to win the football game. Any win is a good win, obviously, especially against a ranked opponent on the road. But the stage now for Notre Dame, this is kind of a second chance. College game day is there. A lot of people watching this game. It's a night game. Some style points will be required, but the college football playoff hopes are definitely still intact. This is the week now that we learn about USC's defense because they go to Boulder, Colorado. And as much as was said about Colorado's offense and what they didn't do against Oregon, I still have to believe they have a lot of personnel on that side of the football that can hurt you if you don't bring your A game. And USC last week against Arizona State, some things left to be desired on tape. Now, I talked to somebody close to USC who said, hey, Arizona State, they did some things schematically that were new to us. They hadn't shown them on tape yet. So we were trying to adjust mid-game and find a way to essentially be able to play the defense we want to play against them. So I think that's true. I wholeheartedly believe that. I don't doubt that. But in this game, we got to be on our P's and Q's because Colorado has weapons that will hurt you. And I saw last week against Arizona State, guys of just quite frankly a lesser talent level win one-on-one against USC in the back end or have the matchup they wanted and take advantage of it. I saw inside zone hit a couple of different times for Arizona State and USC do a poor job tackling. Like, this is the game now where I think USC has to not be perfect, not make a statement to the rest of the college football world that, hey, USC is a defensive juggernaut, but I do need to see a little bit of an uptick on that graph in terms of progression from USC. Because I've held this stance for a while here. I've said this and defended USC for a minute. The defense is not what it needs to be, but it won't need to be what it needs to be until October 14th when they play Notre Dame. Well, hey, that's still true, but you don't just go from bad to good in a matter of a week. Like, you don't just wake up, turn the lights on, put on your shoes, and feel different about your defense. Like, there has to be a steady trend in the right direction. So against Colorado, this is a tremendous opportunity now against better competition to prove it, yes, to the country, but also internally that, hey, we got some guys here that can do some things defensively. A lot of people have opinions about us. That's fine. Let them talk. But just kind of start to show this steady progress on the defensive side of things that when it does come time for that game against Notre Dame, USC's up to the task. And it won't be a matter of, hey, now let's figure it out. Hey, now let's play good defense. Got to watch that. I think it's a great litmus test for us for USC. Because if they go out there and just look lost, my concerns start to become a lot more real about the Trojan defense. Now, saying on the defensive side of the ball, let's talk about LSU because they have a huge game in Oxford. They got Ole Miss. And the chips are stacked now for LSU. Like, this is a game that you really would like to have if you're going to get back to Atlanta. You would like to have this game over Ole Miss. This game last year kind of felt like it propelled LSU forward. The chips are stacked, and who do you go to when the chips are stacked, man? Like, fourth quarter, who you passing the ball to? Give it to your best players. And metaphorically speaking here, you get Harold Perkins in a position to go berserk. Tasmanian Devil. Like, I talked about him really in the same light as Tyrann Mathieu in terms of how versatile he is and how much he can impact the game. I don't necessarily think that they have been enormously aggressive with him just yet because I understand he's an asset in a lot of ways for them. Outside of just rushing the passer, they got to think about his NFL future and the money that he's putting on tape there. This is the game where we need Harold Perkins to take over again. This is the game where you say, Harold Perkins, go eat, brother. Because Jackson Dart, as a mobile quarterback, there will be plays to be made. There will be a responsibility, I believe, on Harold Perkins to get after Jackson Dart. And outside of that, I think Ole Miss is going to do a fair amount to try and attack the second level of this defense, whether it's pre-snap movement, taking advantage of it, whether it's hitting crossing patterns, whether it's getting to guys out in space. Like, they're going to try and mess with that second level. So the pressure is on Harold Perkins to perform. I would love to see Matt House cut him loose. Hey, we'll worry about all that stuff about NFL tape later. Harold Perkins, you go hunt. You go hunt. You go get some tackles for a loss, sacks, all that. Take over like you did against Arkansas a couple of years ago. Now, if Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin are on it, I would imagine they'll scheme a fair amount for number 4. But even so, like, I think this is the Harold Perkins arrival game for 2023. He's already arrived, one of the best players in college football. Do not get it twisted, but I think this is the arrival game for him in 2023. Last final thought for us here. Florida goes to Kentucky, noon kick. And I think this is the week where a lot of people are going to start owing Billy Napier apologies. And they got the win against Tennessee. But if you go beat Kentucky at Kentucky against a well-coached Mark Stoops football team, I don't think you crown Florida. I don't think you say they're going to win the SEC. But at the very least, we can all agree like, hey, we were wrong about Florida in the preseason. The 5.5 win total probably isn't going to hold. And we did the whole TikTok predictions with their schedule. And I mean, that's honestly from July. So if you want to put stock in that, you're more than welcome to. We don't put a ton of stock in it because we're going win-loss for a number of games that are nowhere near happening yet. But we thought Florida would be right around 5-6 wins. If they win this football game, we were off on that probably on the 5-win mark. I think 6 and 7 is much more realistic. And that resets the trajectory of what Billy Napier is as the head coach at Florida, does it not? So many people said, well, top 5 quarterback and you won 6 football games. What are we doing here? We understand football is bigger than just the quarterback. Enormous part of what happens, clearly, but it's not just about the quarterback. Billy Napier was at Florida for a reason because the head coach before him wasn't getting it done. So let's not act like Billy Napier is responsible for the house that he just moved into. He's still getting it situated, but I think if they beat Kentucky this week, and we picked them to beat Kentucky, so we'll see what happens. Calling our shot. We think they beat Kentucky at Kentucky. I think a lot of people have to say, hey, man, hand up. We were wrong about Napier. We were wrong about him. And I will say this. We didn't necessarily call our shot on Florida necessarily when it comes to Billy Napier as a head coach, but we did hold this stance, and I think a lot of y'all probably felt the same way by nature of how y'all responded to those videos. It was always too early to say anything about Billy Napier. It's still too early, but a win, I think, would be difficult for the Billy Napier hater section of the comment section, of the Twitter sphere, of the Instagram sphere. Like, I think it would probably be a tough thing to circumnavigate in what you could say about Billy Napier. So I think the Billy Napier apology tour may start this week in Lexington, Kentucky. We'll see what happens there. So a lot of final thoughts, a lot of final predictions there, but that's the beautiful part about college football, baby. They are eventually going to play the games, and all the talking will go by the wayside. GameTime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the big-time matchups as we get rolling into the college football season, really halfway through the college football season right now. Elite deals, last-minute tickets, and best price guarantee. Don't stress over getting into this game this week with Tennessee and South Carolina or Ole Miss LSU or whatever it ends up being. Don't stress about that. Get the tickets you need at the best prices via GameTime. So GameTime is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. GameTime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. So you wake up Saturday morning, you say, man, Knoxville's not that far. Hey, Oxford's not that far. I want to be at that game. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets on all the sports and entertainment events. Taylor Swift, her stock seems to be going up in the college football landscape. College football landscape. Maybe football landscape is a better way to say it. Regardless, she seems to be someone that the college football / sports media world cares about more and more, which we appreciate. Good for Taylor Swift. Don't know if she's touring. Don't know if she's any concerts. But if she does have a concert, you can find it via GameTime. So the GameTime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, GameTime will credit you, get this, 110% of the difference. So snag tickets without the stress with the GameTime app. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code HARDCOUNT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code HARDCOUNT for $20 off. Download the GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of the Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.